So I wanted to offer my final thoughts in this environment on the EcoFlow whole house backup system. The EcoFlow whole house backup system, as you would have seen through my review on thegadgeteer.com, that's www.thegadgeteer.com, shows my implementation of it, my installation of it, and my idea surrounding how I would use it. As you would see when you read the review, I have a house that had put solar in, and then there's a lot of issues when the guys did put in the solar that forced me to call an electrician, and there's sort of a whole half of the house that had to be fixed or redone that's not on that solar. Some of the places that are not on that solar are the exact studio that I'm speaking to you in now. This is my home studio for my podcast. What's amazing about doing the final thoughts in this forum is that I'm speaking to you with all the equipment and my creator, my board, my podcast board, my 4K camera, several monitors, my Atmos hard drive recorder, all of it running on the EcoFlow Delta Pro at this moment, which means that if when I record, which means for me at least, when I record in the future especially, this is what I will use as my power source, and for good reason. I've been podcasting now for probably a little over 3 years. And in that time, I've had several occurrences where I'm doing monologues and the power cut out. I've even had it when I had a guest on and the power cut out. Now, for those scenarios, after the first time it happened, I was using a UPS. Um, but this is a way better way to go, because this way, my studio is always off the grid. Never pulling any power from the grid, and I'm doing my part. In addition to having reliability for me, I'm doing my part in terms of the environment, right? So let's run through a few things real quick because I don't want to make the final thoughts too long, but I do want to share them with you. Number one, if you have a home that doesn't have backup power, you can use the EcoFlow, the Delta Pro with the double voltage hub that allows you to get 240 volts into a breaker panel, right? If you have a main lug breaker panel, you can use that separately and power your entire home. You would need a solar panel or a few solar panels if you decide to be completely off the grid. And I mentioned that first because as I got into the different forums for the EcoFlow syst periods, and we're a whole community, I have probably 6 or 7 EcoFlow devices, from their dual fuel smart generator to several power stations to the 2 Delta Pros to the EcoFlow wave air conditioner. I've had nothing but good things to say about them. I've heard people say things otherwise, but I don't agree. I think EcoFlow is an amazing step forward to where we need to be. I understand that getting to what I got to review is expensive. I understand that. But that will change also, right? We will get to a point where I believe as more companies come on, as EcoFlow offers more to us and companies like them, that the prices should go down, number one, because of competition. Number two, because more of us are getting involved with doing as much as we can to save our environment, to be off the grid, to save our pockets. My electricity bill, especially during the summer, is through the roof. But as last summer and this summer, I will be running the EcoFlow wave air conditioner in one, and I hope to get another one, so at least 2 of my rooms. I'll be running, as I said before in the review, continue to run my washing machine off the grid, which so far seems to yield me about $65 savings a month. Now, I know that sounds like a big number, but it's not, right? Because if you ever look at your electricity bill, the $65 it's saving me is probably 30 something dollars in fuel, and the rest is in delivery charges. Your bill, almost 50% of your bill from the power companies involves delivery charges and fees and taxes and all these things. Take a good look at it, at least here. So while you may look at the review, you may see my installation, you may critique it, you may like it, you may dislike it. I designed that and I took my time doing this for my personal needs, going and thinking about all, my entire home, thinking about in a real power outage, where do I need power and what do I need it for? To me, running individual outlets using the same electrical cable but running it back to a breaker panel that's independently of the EcoFlow allows me to have a power source in each room using any existing rooms and using the easy generator transfer switch, the manual one, allows me to also choose areas, I think, in a more customizable way. And I say that because if there's many ways to use the easy generator transfer switch, the manual one. But if you're using it from not from directly from the EcoFlow by itself, but using it as a shared, as a transfer, then if you use individual switches, you can really decide I only want this part, this outlet in this room on. Whereas when you're dealing with a breaker, the breaker in many cases serves a lot more power sources in your room, right? Lights and etc. And so if you when you decide to shut that big breaker off, if you have a long power outage, you can't select just all the lights off but leave the breaker on, leave the outlet on, unless your house is already wired that way. So what you saw was my design that's in progress. I'm hoping to continue to do updates to this because I think it is really incredible. And that design you saw in this review might change. It might change because I have more ideas. It also might change because you guys give me input. And I'm hoping that if you do, we do it in a constructive way that can really make a difference. I'm a fan of EcoFlow. Like I say, I've heard other things people say. I'm not sure why, because as I get into the community, many parts around this country, especially where power outages are a big deal, people have invested in EcoFlow and they run the entire homes either during the frequent power outages they get, or they've got enough solar panels and they run off the grid completely. I'm hoping that at some point I can get maybe two 400-watt power panels, solar panels from EcoFlow, and I can implement those into this system, which will allow me to stop having to recharge the Delta Pros off of the power grid. At that point, I'd love to come back to you after a few months of checking and comparison of bills and actually moving more and more of what I need daily over to the EcoFlow, to the Delta Pros, and tell you exactly how much money I've saved. Either way, for me, I give EcoFlow a very well done and two thumbs way up.